Facebook family. We got our guests. We ready to go. We're gonna look at them. They ready. We're gonna give them a couple of minutes to join us. We'll do a little small talk as we waiting for the people to join us. I first want to say to everybody watching, I need for you all to, after we finish with the live, go click on the link to go to the actual YouTube page and like, comment, and subscribe. We like to do it live, but then I still go back later and post it on my actual YouTube channel. We have the Neil's Appeal YouTube channel. And what I'm noticing is it's a lot of y'all, you're coming out here, you're coming and watching the movie. Almost 2,000, 3,000 people when I look back and see 3,000 views, but you're not subscribing. So I need you to get from off of here and then go subscribe. That's what we need y'all to do, don't we, Fred?
Absolutely, absolutely. Especially when we got Mr. Michael Dublin in the house. His only lady. I don't say first lady. I say his only lady, Miss Cece. Stop playing. I've heard in the past where I come from the Baptist church or whatever they refer to ladies as the first lady, and a lot of churches, sectarian churches, they do that. And I heard one preacher put it in layman's terms, what I'm saying, if you have a first lady, then he has a second or a third lady. So I just I just did away with that first lady business, so that's your only lady, man.
Well, Cece doesn't like that title anyway.
I kind of
and after a while, I just say, depending on the group, if everybody calling you first lady, just let it go. Because you can't, you just like they want to call me reverend. After a while, it's like, okay, whatever. So, the world is the way it is, and there's an opportunity to kind of straighten people out, but
correct.
Most of us ain't gonna be straightened out. So just
let
it go.
That's right.
All right.
You've been bent too much. They can't.
Yeah. That's right. That's absolutely right.
Especially you coming from what part of Florida is that again?
Lakeland.
It ain't Lakeland.
Leesburg.
Yeah. I used to run that market down there, man. I mean, it's a bunch of open space, open land. Like how I like living. A house with some acreage. For lack of better terms.
Yeah, but we have it's a little more than we ain't exactly farmland. We do have some we have some stoplights and
you do. And I just point out the places that I like. Yes, there are stoplights in Leesburg. Yeah, I think most everybody knows that, for the most part.
That's the outskirts.
Correct. And I like the outskirts. I'm a country boy.
Yeah,
so
okay. Yeah. I love Leesburg, and there are places where they have back in around it where you have these trees with moss and stuff. And I just love being in those spaces like that.
Absolutely.
So I've been praying for them today because that hurricane is scheduled to come right on top of them.
That's right.
Next few hours.
That's right.
Right. All right, y'all. We're gonna go. We need to go head on and get started tonight. I posted in the for the flyer. I believe it was yes, we all can get along, right? Because a lot of times when you have these blended families, you have the wife don't like the old you know what I'm saying? Like you got these little wars, right? And sometimes it's inevitable, but I like how the current wife can get along with the past, or that whole relationship thing where we're not enemies. It's okay. We all can get along. All the children getting along, everybody in the whole entire family. And so that's a need to talk about, because we have some people that don't have that, right, as a luxury. And so we want to discuss blended families tonight. So wait, before we get started, we got to do what we normally do to all our guests. We ask these little fun questions in the beginning to try to get to know who is Michael, who, like, just a little snippet of Michael and Cece, like who the quirky part of y'all, right? Or the part that's like, I ain't never think of it like that. And so we just ask these couple of questions. So listen, you can't think long. When I ask the question, it's called who's most likely to. And when I ask the question, you can't think long. You just point to whoever's most likely to. If it's you, go on and be honest and point to yourself. If it's your spouse, point to the spouse. Real quick, right? Don't give it much thought. Y'all ready? It's easy. It's fun. Come on, preacher. You ready?
I'm waiting on you.
I'm anticipating your question.
All right, here we go. Who is most likely to fall asleep during a movie? All right. Who is most likely to take long to get dressed?
No, Mike, that's you. No, that's Mike. It takes him a long time to get enough.
Preacher, do I need?
Everything's got to be in place. Everything got to be in place.
He be looking in place
yeah,
too.
He sure does. I mean, I'm kind of leaning towards Cece, preacher. What's happening?
Well, most people do.
Let's see. Who is most likely to forget where they parked the car?
It's probably me.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
That's good.
Okay. I don't want to argue about everything. Okay.
But initially, y'all pointed at yourselves. So
yeah,
because I've done it several times. Now I have to put it in my phone where I'm located, so I know where to go.
Hey, I've done it too. I've actually pulled on the wrong door before.
Yeah, I've done that too.
Set off alarms and stuff.
You know that panic button that's on those key fobs. That's what that's for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've used that too. And the sound is far away.
Panic because you can't find it. It's a panic. I mean, although it's not an emergency, but I mean it's a panic because you can't find your car.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we got two more. Who is most likely to forget the anniversary?
I'm guilty.
Listen, we all it happens. It happens. I think it's just we just be like I think all the men that I ask this question, they just gonna always lose. I have yet to see a man point at the wife yet. That's amazing.
It's in our nature. We trying to forget. Like, why you keep bringing it up?
You're trying to forget what you signed on to.
Yeah, why you bringing that up?
All right, and we got one more. Who is more romantic?
Me.
You the romantic one.
I'm voting for both of us.
We love to do that. It's just a little, little icebreaker just to get the nervousness off and get the come on. Let's see how honest are you in this beginning part so we can just see what's about to happen right now for the meat. We're about to get to the meat now. And so we're talking about blended families. Thank y'all for participating. Y'all were great. We're talking about blended families. And so my question that I would like to start with is what is the primary difficulty, right? What's the main thing that is the initial difficulty when you're dealing with facing the blended families? Well, first, we didn't even talk about how y'all met. Can we talk about that first? Y'all give us a quick of that, and then we'll jump right into the questions.
Well, we both attended Brooks Avenue Church of Christ, and my now deceased wife, Linda, she knew Linda, but Linda had gotten cancer.
Preacher,
And,
where's Brooks Avenue Church of Christ? Most folks don't know
on
where
Brooks
it is.
Avenue in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay.
So when Linda was sick, Cece would go visit her, and I knew who Cece was, but I didn't really know her. And she was dating another guy, and that didn't work out. And then my wife died, and then my best friend at that time was a member of Brooks Avenue, and Cece had come from Dayton, Ohio, and she was working on getting her apprenticeship at Lee Funeral Home. And so we just kept meeting over at the best friend's house, and just over a period of time, we got to know each other, and she started running after me. And after me, it was like, come on, just leave me alone. But she wouldn't. So, that's kind of like how we got it. Now, you can believe any part of that you want to.
Everything was true except the latter part.
Okay.
He came after me.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Well.
Okay, we've heard the cat's meow. Now we know the story.
So that's an interesting love story. So let's go ahead and jump into that question.
How long have you guys been married?
It'll be 40 years next year.
Mercy.
This year,
40
you said?
Next year, it'll be 40 years. It's 39 years.
Wow. That's saying a bit much, to saying that, there's a lot to be talked about before we even get into the blended factor of why we're having this discussion or what have you. But I mean, to be married to, one individual for 40 years and then coming from a marriage, a family, and and just starting over, and then you guys are together 40 years. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm continuously reminding her I'm an amazing man.
And she lets us know that too.
So, brother,
you are.
So, that's sweet. So, brother Dublin, you had children from your previous wife, your deceased wife, which we our condolences. We are sorry for your loss. We do not want to go without mentioning that, but you had a family already, right?
Yeah, my first wife and I divorced. My second wife is deceased, so I had a blended family.
A blended.
Mm-hmm.
And so when y'all got together, let's talk about it. What was were there difficulties? Because Cece, she seems so sweet and so nice, and just like there's no care in the world with her smile.
I have my flaws and everything else, I'm just like everybody else.
Well, one of the things that I want to say is, anytime you're starting in any marriage, we have a belief that it's just us two, but it's really your memories, your parents, whoever you dated. You stand to the altar with a whole bunch of people.
Mm-hmm.
The two of you make a vow and a commitment, but that includes everybody that you've had a close relationship with. So whether you were ever married or not, that's who you bring to the altar, and that's who you take with you. So that becomes critical in understanding that other people unintentionally are going to impact your relationship because you brought them with you.
Mm-hmm.
But you're bringing the memory of them, not what they are saying right now, but you brought that to the table. And whatever you bring to the table, that's just what you have to deal with. I think more than anything else, if we could ever understand that marriage does involve your past, it involves all of the people, your trauma, and all of the other things. And the marital commitment doesn't make that different. It is what it is. And now you begin the long journey of deciding whether it's worth giving up whatever you have to, so that one day you learn how to love each other. The love that we talk about that's up front, that doesn't last. The one that will last is when you both decide it's worth everything that you've gone through. You got to go through something. And when you go through something, then you say, hey, this is worthwhile. This is what it's all about. Too often people divorce before they ever get to learn to love each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's the other stuff that they gotten tired of and used to. But the thing that I really would like to focus on the most is when you bring other people into your relationship. Yes, you're going to do some comparisons, but there's going to be some stuff that's you're not thinking it through. You haven't thought about it at all. And the ex, if you have children, all blended families don't have children. Sometimes both people have been married and they have no children, and they still have to concern themselves about the in-laws. What happens when you go to an event and family reunion and you think you can, well, we didn't make it, but you still want to go, but somebody in the family doesn't want you there.
Right.
And then you think about that one partner may have come into the relationship with a child and they have no children between the two of them and they split. So then the child that had another biological parent got to know the step parent and then had to break with the step parent. So those dynamics there's multiple dynamics to blended families. To narrow it down a little bit, I had gone through divorce. I got married the first time I was 18, young guy, and that went through a divorce. And then my second wife died from cancer. I had no intentions of divorcing her. Just that's what happened when the cancer came along. But what each one of those families brought with it is themselves. So when Cece and I got married, I still had young sons. I had young daughters, and then she and I have a daughter together. And all of that has to be blended in. All of the relationships from the past had to be blended in. And a key component of blended families is what is the role of the ex. So whatever the situation is that ex supportive? Are they trying to stay out of the way? Are they still trying to show that they've got the power over you? Are they trying to manipulate you? Are they trying to use the children? What is the status of the ex? Because some exes don't play games. They play to destroy your relationship. Because they want to let you know, I'm the one. You can't do this without me. They don't want you. They just want you to have who you have.
Correct.
So the ex becomes very, very important. Early on, Kelly, you had mentioned about children, and I'll talk about that a little later. But the ex is a factor that most people in their premarital counseling, even if they have it, don't talk about enough. They have to be realistic, because when you're getting married, you don't want the spouse that you're getting ready to, the potential spouse, to know the impact that the other person has. Sometimes you don't know. Sometimes you think I'm moving on, but the first time you hear Al Green, or the first time you hear somebody who's your favorite record, all of a sudden you realize you haven't moved as far as you thought you had.
Oh, right.
So with that in mind, you realize you have a lot of work to do. So I talk a lot, but I'm trying to summarize to say the X factor, whatever role that X plays, that has to be dealt with up front, because they can be very supportive or they can be very destructive. But both people have to know the X is in that conversation. They're part of all of this, even in your bedroom, wherever they are, they have a role in there. And you have to be aware of the fact that they are there, and you want to put them in their proper place by being open and honest with each other about where you want to go and what you want and what you expect.
Interesting. How much conversation or how much communication did you guys have before going to the altar? I mean, obviously you both knew what you were getting into prior to saying I do. How much and how long was any type of conversation being had between you two?
Well, we had a premarital counseling sessions. I'm thinking it was 7 or 8 sessions. May have been more than that, but yeah, we went through those sessions. The thing about some sessions, though, if they're not culturally specific, you can miss some stuff.
Correct.
And you can have a model that people who are Christians can write, but they don't know about blended. They don't know the nuances. They don't know the other stuff. So if you give somebody a Christian curriculum that has not matured in Christ, sometimes you're expecting them to do stuff that they're not prepared to do at that particular time. So was it helpful? Yes. Was it even remotely close to what would have addressed these issues? No.
No.
Right, because it would be like a case by case
Yeah.
type of situation.
Yeah.
And my question is along like what Fred just asked, like, I guess it all depends on what the breakup or how the relationship is with the former. Like, is it a conversation that can be had where we sit at the round table, the old, the new, the now, the present? Like, is it a round table discussion? Is it getting on the phone? Like, when does the understanding, like, I guess that just depends on the relationship. If because sometimes we could be, or we'd be scorned sometimes, you know, and like you said, like we might not be ready for it to be over. So now we trying to wreck and be, you know, I'm in control, I'm gonna keep your son from you and things like that. So I guess that would be a case by case too, to see if it can even be a round discussion with all parties involved, right? Is that?
Well, it's, and Cece, jump in because I talked to the whole session. It's complex, quite complex. You have thoughts, you have emotions, you have experiences, and when you come together and somebody else has the woman or the man and they're about to marry him, you're not very objective about that unless it's much, much later down in separation and the divorce, whatever's happened. So you still have feelings and thoughts, and you're not necessarily wanting them to not make it, but you're not going to be there to try to make it. So it's just complex trying to bring other people into your situation moving forward. But it is incumbent upon the two of you to talk about the potential that those two have, the ex has, in many ways. But many of us don't think about that. We ever thought about who went to the family reunion, who went to the school reunions, all the other stuff that the other spouse used to do. The other spouse, your sister just loves him to death, hates the one you're about to marry. You got to deal with it. It's so Kelly, I'm not sure that we could ever have a group where we could kind of work this thing out, but we have to be determined to work it out as we go.
Now, I didn't experience any of that. The relationships between Mike and his first wife, it was as if we knew each other. You know, when I would invite the family over for dinner, she was included too to come. And, you know, we've done that several times. I've been to her home. She's been to mine. When the grandkids were in sports, you know, we were there. We had conversation. We've texted each other. We've talked to each other. I mean, I've even been to the hospital to see her. So the relationship has been amazing. It's and even Mike's wife, who passed away, the in-laws love me so much from the beginning. And our relationship just continued to grow. And so I thought it was important, and I don't even know where I got this from, was to keep the family connected to their original family. So the weekends we would go to the grandparents' house. I've traveled to Charlotte to go to Christmas, Thanksgiving. And so even to this day, I have a relationship with the in-laws. When we go we just had a family reunion not too long ago, and it was as if we just started the conversation for where we left off. So it's been amazing for me that I have not had to experience any of that. And I remember, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask a question. I didn't mean to cut you off. How did your family? You got such a mature, docile. You're just a beautiful person. How did your family feel about getting involved with a blended family? How did your family feel about it, CC?
Well, they wanted, to me to marry somebody who was single, who didn't have children, because I didn't even have any children, and I had never been married. So you have this person who's inexperienced wanting to marry someone who has been married. So they would have rather me go a different route, but I didn't. And so I didn't experience that. And a lady told me before Mike and I got married, and I never forget it. She says, when you're in a blended family, you're going to have difficult times, but you'll have good times, and you actually can do it, but you got to stay in the word. But the two things she said is be fair and love. Those were the two things, be fair and love. So the fairness of how do you keep all the children connected to their dad? And that's, to me, that was the fairness. And so there was no confrontation between Mike and his wife. It just didn't happen. So I think my attitude and what the lady had told me 40 years ago, really helped in the relationship with me and everybody else in the in-laws.
Well, my situation with, I'm talking out of two areas, pastorally and doing the blended family workshops, which we've done for quite a while. And those are the issues that typically come up when you married the second or third time.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is our relationship where things didn't go that particular way. And I think more than anything else, CC's spirit contributed to my ex getting along with CC. She didn't have no issue with CC, but what CC don't know, she had issues with me. So I never told CC about the times me and the ex didn't get along. I just didn't bring that up. I just left that alone. So for quite some time, we weren't necessarily enemies, but we didn't get along. But I didn't want to surface. I didn't want to add anything else to that. So there were some issues there, and there were some issues that I just never surfaced it. I wanted to get to a certain place where we're beyond that. Now we're well beyond that. I mean, like she's saying, we way beyond that. But initially, first few years, that was some tension. And the thing that's important here is my second wife died. That's who the first one would have had the tension with. So by the time Cece comes along, she's cool because that's where the issue was with her. So she's moved on in her life at that particular point. Right. And because she's moved on, then she has no reason then to have an issue with us. And I've never been out of my son's life. So, I made a commitment to God that there will never be a time in their lives when they didn't know where I was, because I grew up without knowing my dad and knowing where he was. So I would never do that to a child. So at age 50, I realized I'm going to live the rest of my life, and I would never know who my father. I know his name, but I haven't even seen a picture. I am never, ever in my life going to have a dad in my life. He had died a long time ago. But only when I hit age 50, wow, I'm 50, and I don't have a dad. I don't have aunts and uncles and grandparents, a lot of stuff. So I just felt like I just got dropped here on the earth. And but I didn't want my sons and daughters to ever experience anything remotely like that. Correct. So I did everything I could to make sure that there was no conflict, there was no issues, and that I worked diligently to make sure I stay in my children's life and to not make my relationship with Cece a battleground because of things that had happened prior to me meeting her. But again, many people still struggle with these other issues because they don't have that same situation. Mm-hmm. They have situations where the spouse or the ex-spouse or whoever, baby daddy, whatever, is still in the picture, and they will make it tough. They'll make it tough.
So I heard two things when you both took your turns talking, and I'm glad. I meant to say this in the beginning, but before I met you personally, you know how we have in our brotherhood, we have, so you know, you call this certain brother when you want to hear about finances, you call, like, you were the relationship guru that you're known for relationship. You want to bring somebody in to talk about any type of relationship, call Brother Dublin, right? And so I appreciate you um, being here to give us this wisdom. And that's one thing I heard when you both were talking. I heard character, and you followed behind when you said that CC spirit. And then I heard wisdom on your part, character on CC. Like, we keep talking about how docile and sweet she is, right? Not to say that you're not, Brother Mike. We're not saying that, right? But we just
Well, I'm not. I'm not.
but what I think can help in any relationship, because we all know that this is relative, like, it just depends on who we're dealing with, but those two things right there, character and wisdom, because it took wisdom on your part to not even say, oh, they getting along fine, she don't know, I'm not even telling her about the other stuff, right? That's wisdom. That's not pillow talking and saying, well, I just got off the phone with her, she da 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 da, because in CC spirit, she can develop a dislike or whatever because of what you're telling her. So
indirectly,
right? So I heard two things that I think will help couples across the board, right? The character of the person, you know, that's going to take time if they're not like that. You know, once you get the spirit of God in you, and we all know that everybody watching, that's not what their actual reality is, but that's the goal, right? Because this thing can work. It really can work. The blended part can work, but it's going to take internal yourself dealing with your own insecurities and things like that. And so, two things you said, character and wisdom. I love that, because a lot of times we can get the spouse involved, like Fred just said, indirectly or directly, by making them be at war with each other. So I just commend that, because as y'all are just talking, y'all just saying it, and it's just manifesting right here on the screen. Like, yeah, that was wisdom, that was character. So question is, can you say something to help with like parenting styles, right? Because that'll take character and wisdom as well too, and it also stems from what we grew up with, learning from our separate homes. Did y'all even have that discussion about parenting style? Because your children were fairly young, right?
Yeah.
At first, so was that even now, how we gonna do? How we gonna be? Can you say something to them? Should I just be the one to say something? Like, was that a discussion?
Well, I thought it was very, very complex. Cece and I have one daughter together. I have one daughter outside of any marriage, and I have one daughter now that's deceased, two sons, and a total of three daughters, because they're all adults now. We have 13 grandchildren and 13 great-grandchildren. The issues that I had were complex because my first wife and I divorced. So I raised my two boys for a while. And then when Linda and I got married, we were married 5-6 years, and she died. And so when Cece and I got married, then I already had the daughters. I had Veronica and Courtney. And then because of a medical reason, we had to have a child right away, because Cece was not going to be able to have children later on. And the doctor said, I know what your hopes and dreams are. You said that, but that can't happen. This has to be done right away. So in our first year, we married a year, and Kendra was 3 months old at that point. And then I had Courtney, who was later diagnosed with diabetes, and she was suicidal. And then there's just Veronica and Michael and Kwame with their mother. So it was a situation that, you know, I didn't have a clue how to make all of this work. The fires was so many of them that I didn't have time to think about how to make things work. I was just too busy putting out fires, and they were ever blazing. So one of my daughters, she had a lot of emotional and mental health, and it just took everybody's attention. So I actually did not relate to CC that much because I didn't know how to go to work, take care of my current family, then deal with the mental health issues, and then having the sons. It was just so overwhelming that I had no clue what to do. So my whole thing was to ask God wisdom and give me the strength to do what needed to be done. But I kind of shut down while I was doing all of that because it was overwhelming. So I still had a wife that I was still grieving when CC and I got married. I'm learning who CC is, how to be good, faithful, loving husband. But when they said that she was sick and she had this surgery, I'm thinking I just lost a wife. She just died.
Just buried a wife.
God, what are you doing?
Right.
In this short period of time, now I've got to go through this again.
Right.
So what is this punishment about? And what did I do? I knew I messed up, but my goodness. And so I just had to shut down and do what I had to do. I had to go to work. I take care of my family. I had to do all the things that became necessary for me. In the meantime, I actually went into ministry at that time. That don't ask me how it happened. I have no clue. All I know is the people at Brooks Avenue, they saw something in me, and I'm just thinking, y'all crazy. And you must be. So, but I was raised to believe I was supposed to be a preacher. So I gave up on it. I said, it's no way humanly possible that God can use me. The best I can do is get on my knees, beg his forgiveness every day. And I was going to live out the rest of my life as the bad guy because I had messed up so bad. So I had no clue about real redemption. I had no clue about God's grace and mercy. So at that time, I was just financially under stress, trying my best to make it all work. I hardly ever saw CC. There was a penalty that she had to pay, but I just couldn't. I couldn't be a husband. You know, if she had left, she had every right to leave. There was no reason for her to have stayed in a relationship with me. I didn't have anything to give her. Sometimes I was critical because Linda, my previous wife, when she had cancer, she still was washing other people's clothes. She was in death row, and she would get up and go do stuff for folk. And every time Cece had a little ache and pain, I said, what's wrong with you? I compared her to Linda being sick. Man, it was, I'm saying all that to say, if God had not done what God had done, I couldn't have made it. But when you see Cece's personality, I can tell anybody that's her. That's the real deal. So when she says she's a sinner like everybody else, I've been married to almost 40 years now. I've been trying to say, well confess something. So what I'm saying is personality, but tell me something you did wrong.
Right.
And then what she'll tell me, I said, that ain't even real. I don't even make no sense. You're making stuff up. So so we weren't compatible. I'm older than she is. I'd gone through all of this, but I was like a guy in a lake. I was just drowning, and the water was over my head, and I couldn't figure out why was I still alive. I'm supposed to be dead. I'm supposed to have drowned, but somehow I just kept walking under the lake. So the issues then about how we related was 100% what God would do because I couldn't do it. There's nothing that God has ever told me to do that I don't want to do. Much of it I can't do, but I want to. Always, from the time I was born that I can remember, I've always loved God and I've always wanted to serve God. And sometimes I think being born a twin and my twin brother died at birth, I think I got double something. So I don't want to ramble, but all I'm trying to say is that the burdens that I had put myself in by having multiple children, multiple relationships. When I got to Cece and then her having had the surgery, I was just undone. So her character, her strength, knowing that her family would have preferred that she didn't marry me, knowing that church members would prefer she didn't marry me. I don't quite understand her. Even now, I don't. So when you are selecting someone, can you imagine them having to go through all of that and still keep their sanity and continue to move forward? So,
well, you know what I did?
Tell them.
I learned a lot about Courtney's diabetes, and I was able to help her along the way. And we lived for the weekend. I was taking them either bowling or skating. And there were times Mike would say, "You're never home," but I needed to do something with my girls. And so that's what we did. We put puzzles together. We did seek and find games. We were always doing something on the weekend, or I was going to the grandparents' house. So we stayed very active. And because I taught Bible class, they were helping me with my lessons, drawing or cutting out. So they basically was with me the whole time. They were my girls. We would go get our hair done. All of us would be there together. So it was the three of us. And then there were times when I had Cortina. I would go get her just so that, I wanted her to feel a part of the family. Everybody needed to stay connected. And that's what I did. I just kept the connection going with the girls.
Well, Coach.
And then another thing, I'll just say this other thing too, once when the kids were in school, we had a sort of a tradition. After we ate, we cleaned up, we had our Bible study. I had books, all different types of books that we could read, and then we go to bed. So we just had these rituals, and I think it really helped us to connect early on. So I think that's what really I think helped in the relationship, is just keeping the girls busy doing things. And then when they started going to the girls' club and getting into basketball and baseball, they were in activities and supporting them there. So helping with homework, that's what I did.
So you went to work.
I just started. Yeah, I started working. I learned so much about a person with diabetes. It was amazing. It helped. And then we were able to get Courtney to actually go to camp, and she enjoyed it. I mean, she was in different activities, even got her ice skating. We would go, I had bundled up the girls and in our coats, and she would ice skate, just to give her something to do. So I sort of drenched myself with the children.
So Courtney is the deceased daughter who had diabetes all of her life. Right. Cortina is the one that I'd gotten outside of either marriage. So she's saying that she reached out to all of them and did not show favoritism one toward the other. All of them that were mine is what she worked on. And that is it's not a cliche to say that Cece is anchored in God. You just can't do this stuff. I don't care what your personality is. So she has something that was bigger than her.
Mm-hmm.
But it's important then we didn't always agree about parenting. I mean, it's at some point you have to find the best place that you can come when you're parenting style. I'm a little stricter, I think, and so, but then other times it flipped where I thought Cece was a little stricter. But here's the point for your viewers: it's how the child perceives both of you or either of you. You won't know that until later on. So you will find out later on that they thought you mistreated them, you treated another one better than them, and you just don't know, but you weren't conscious of it. And the things that they will look for in that relationship and will bring back to you many, many years later. And you were trying to survive, so you have no clue what they're talking about. Have a total different perspective. So sometimes the stepchildren issues is not the former spouses, it's the children themselves.
Mm-hmm.
When they become young adults, how do you maintain a relationship when they think you've mistreated them? That is also a monster of a problem, because you're trying to, once a child frames something a certain way, they don't seem to understand. I was working. I had to survive. I had to keep a roof over your head. All these things I had to do, but you felt like you were being neglected and Cece had to take care of you. Those were the basic necessities. If I stopped doing those, we're homeless.
Right.
But there is this need to be connected. And then my deceased daughter, Courtney, and then Veronica, that was their mother that died. So they were going through another set of circumstances, even in spite of all of that. And so those, again, are the complexities that there is no time when you wake up the next day and it's all over with. They will be with you for quite some time. But learning how not to lash out, not to say nasty things, that dropping bombs on them. You notice a city or a town that gets bombed, how it gets destroyed. And even when you rebuild that city or town, the memories, the lives that are lost, you can't rebuild that. Right. So we try not to drop bombs on them and say negative things about their parents or their ex, anything like that. Even at that, it was very, very difficult to rebuild. So our relationship with God continued, and we were in a church that taught a lot. So I was able to learn a lot about the relationships. I didn't just pick that up, but through the experience, we were able to see how profound those issues would be. Now, some of what I'm saying, I learned that now that my children are adults. But while I was going through it, I just simply didn't know. I just gave them the best that I had. We gave the best we had to give.
That is a lot.
That's a lot. That's beautiful. And the whole while Cece was telling her story, right before you started speaking, she kept saying "my girls," and I just thought that was beautiful. So she had already taken on the role of, okay, yes, I didn't have, one or two of the girls, biologically, but they were still her girls. And you guys, did your Bible studies. You had a ritual that you did, nightly or whatever it was before you went to bed. And I mean, that's just beautiful. And that just goes to show you the purpose that God has for each one of us on this earth or what have you. You just never know, at what angle, he allows us to go through things. It's just like you talk about, gold, it's heated, it's a lot of pressure is put on it. So a lot of pressure has been put on both of you guys to, come out on this side of your kids growing up to be grown and everybody seemingly is doing well and getting along. And I can vouch for you. And I'm sure, there are days where, things are not so good, but you guys still dealt with it, from a family standpoint, a blended family standpoint.
Yeah. Well, I promised God I would never abandon my family. So what was brought to me in my generation, I don't know these fully functioning families. In fact, Cece loves her mother loved her dad, love all, but I don't know people that way. I have my family, I love them. My mom's now deceased, my sister is, my brother-in-law, but I didn't have the same commitment because I didn't grasp it. It never made sense to me to be that much in love with your mama. I still don't. I loved my mama, but what she had with her mom and what I have is just, I'll never be that.
Wow. I mean, how do you describe that kind of love? I was listening to something today, and the guy was saying about, based upon what we're talking about, love. You know, we talk about love. I think it was from a Greek standpoint of how we in the Western culture, our Western culture, we might say we love our mom, just like you said, or we love this pair of shoes or what have you. Now that love word, you know what I'm saying, it's the same, but it's different because you're not going to love a pair of shoes the same way that you love your mom, and I know sometimes you express, what I'm saying, you didn't have the family, the outreach. So, I mean, how did that really affect you when, Cece goes and sees her family or whatever, and you really don't have the outlets as far as a family tree is concerned?
I never felt like I was connected to her family. I stayed away from them.
Oh, wow.
I still do. And when I say I still do, her mom and dad have died, but I never had a relationship with them because it just didn't make sense to me. So when they would do things, they loved to play tennis. They loved to do bowling. And so when the family would come from Ohio to go bowling, I wouldn't go. It's just like, I don't belong. And but all of that comes from my side. So it didn't make sense to me. Now, if I haven't belonged here, why am I put myself in a position to belong there? And that's a part of people talking about relationship, because I've learned so much and I've gone through so much, and none of it's the easy stuff for me. So I have never not loved the Krim side of the family, but I've never really related to them because I just didn't know how to. And we talked about it. Cece, say something.
Cece, I mean, how did that affect you, Cece? The fact that, he felt,
I think it was
alienated.
I think it was more the distance and, my family not here. Whereas with Mike's family, everybody's here. So I, connected more with even the family here than I did even at home. I would go home, every year, 2-3 times. But my relationship was more here in Raleigh. So I just, I just accepted it, and that's just how it is. And I would go, see my parents. So.
Well, it's kind of tough part of the conversation, and she ain't saying a whole lot, but she really loved her mother, loved all of her family. And this is important for blended families, is that there's some things that I couldn't relate to the same way. When you don't have certain components in your family, you can read about them, study about them, and you can learn, but there's some emotional stuff where you won't be connected. You mentally, spiritually, yeah, but emotionally it's not there. And so you struggle with, how am I going to be supportive of my wife? And she loves her family. I pray for them. I officiated the mother and father's funeral, watching Cece when her mom died, and the funeral director let her go up and fold up when they're getting ready to close the casket. So all of this is important, but in some ways that's why I know God did it, because, and still doing it, because there is this inability inside me to really connect at that level that I would have if I had known that true connectedness that of a father. And a mom gave the best she could, but there's some things I just didn't get that I longed for, but I just never got it. But the determination that I was going to keep my family together no matter what comes from not having that. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but
No, it does.
Yeah, I ain't think anybody else should ever suffer like that. So I still, even today, I'm close to my family. One of my sons called me the other day and say, Dad, I just want to let you know don't owe me anything. He said, you've done more than enough for me. And he went on to talk about the fact that he has a great life and that whatever's in the past, stop bringing that stuff up and stop feeling sorry. Man, you don't owe me nothing. I'm good to go. And it was just like, wow. And so a part of my belief system is that God is continuously impacting people's lives in ways that you don't really grasp. And once he does it, he'll send you confirmation and affirmation. So the struggles then with the blended families, the struggles with step parenting means you don't give up and you don't give in and quit, because there will be fruit on the other side of it. All families struggle. Rarely does a family, mother and father, have the same page. They usually don't get they're different. So
even when you don't even have a blended family.
Even when you don't have a blended family. Yeah. So learning how to raise your children. Children have one goal in life. That is to mess up mom and daddy. When they get up, they're thinking about how they can turn against each other unless they want something, both of them. And then when they get in their 20s, they'll start talking about, yeah, we sneaked out the back door. We did this, and we said, yeah, we saw you. And one of my daughters tried to run away. I ain't gonna call her name. She would have hit me.
we heard that story already. Go ahead and tell it.
Just ask the next question.
She couldn't even run away.
Just ask the next question.
The neighbor told on her. I went right off the phone.
Yeah, we heard that story.
She was so glad to get in the car.
Next question, please.
I started chuckling because I remember I called myself running away, and I caught the bus. I'm gonna go to the comments in a second, but I just want to ask you, so Brother Dub, did it bother you? Because that was a lot. Y'all's story is a lot. And so, like Cece said, her, some people didn't want her, or one of y'all mentioned it, that they didn't want her to marry you with, the baggage, right? That came with you, right? And so, and how did that make you feel? Like, and is part of that too a reason what the closeness with her parents, or is just like what you said about just relationships and you not feeling, working on that relationship? Like, how did that make you feel to know that people were like, don't marry him?
Well, first of all, I think they were right, but their approach was wrong. If you want something from me, talk to me, let's negotiate, but challenge me, and I'm going to anchor down right where I am. It doesn't matter what you do. So their approach was to come to Cece and say, don't marry him. My approach was, okay, watch and see what I do. Now, she's caught in between. She doesn't know that I'm resenting these other people, because I know them too. People at Brooks, and didn't know her family. But no one came to me and said, you have you got a lot of experience. You're older. You have children, and I know you want to have a relationship. But have you considered that this might be too much? Nobody said that to me. They all talked behind my back. So in my relationship with CC, the way things came together with living at my best friend's house, and the way everything was seeming to be coming together. And I could have been reasoned with. And today, this is a hard part for us. But my core belief, in spite of all the story you're hearing, that Cece had a much better life with somebody who didn't have children and who wasn't like me. So I'm still in awe of the fact that we still have a powerful relationship. It still makes no sense to me. My core belief still is, man, if you could have got the right guy, because you're some kind of woman, and you deserve a guy who's straight. You don't deserve nothing messed up like me. So that stuff about opposite attract, that ain't true. I mean, you better find somebody you like. Yes, you might run into me. So the power of our relationship, even today, is in my being awe of God, my love and respect for her. And also, I didn't let anybody take something from me. And I didn't want anybody to take anything from me. You have to sit with me, you have to talk and give me dignity and respect. Now, whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. But all of those were factors in us, in me pursuing her and wanting to have a relationship that has ended up where it is today.
Right. And the thing of it is, when you don't know somebody's story, you could look at the baggage and be like, that's not a good, situation. But she was on the inside. She saw your situation was what it was. And when you know the story, it's like you have to shut the people out, because it's not like you were just out here just, you know what I'm saying? Like from start to finish, just free, whatever the word is called, right? You have an actual story, and some things and some situations and circumstances happen to you. Children were a result of that, and she saw past that, and she said yes.
Yeah, but I want her. I want her to say something.
What?
What you wanted to say?
The whole process, she's thinking something. I can see that.
No, I was just listening to you, so I wasn't thinking about anything.
So I'm gonna read
all
just
the things you said. You've said to me, so I already know. Yeah.
That's good. Communication is the number one thing in any relationship, blended, not blended, single parent, whatever the case may be. Communication is the key.
Well, Mike he's a better communicator than I am. I'm not a very good communicator.
Yeah, but God put y'all together because, I'm not saying opposites attract or whatever, but I mean, just like she's better at some things than I am, and vice versa. And my problem is a lot of times my expectations of her, I sometimes fall in that gap to expect her to do this or respond to something the way that I would, and we both grew up in different households. They did things different in her household, and we did things different in my household. So this is beautiful.
Yes, I appreciate y'all sharing. I appreciate the transparency. I wanted to read some of the comments, but of course, it went away. But I do remember seeing one person ask, when are the blended family workshops? I did see that. Someone did ask that. And I think Melanie had a good comment. It was about the children. You don't find out, like you just said, till you get older, right? That they felt a certain kind of way. Mm-hmm. So my question now is, you can't go back. You probably can't even remember some of the stuff that they're talking about, because like you said, you were just trying to survive. So how do you tell us how you work through fixing that? Or is that just something that the child that is now an adult needs to stop holding, you responsible and take responsibility themselves and understand you were doing the best that you could do? How do you fix that after going so long thinking one thing, and then you find out later, oh, you thought I was this or that? How is that repairable? Or is that?
No, it's, when Paul says forgetting those things are behind, I press on. I have had to learn how to use biblical principles to press on. I can't change one single decision that I made or one action that I've taken. I can honestly say most of the decisions and stuff I made, I was pretty much thinking I was doing the right thing. And when I wasn't, I didn't know it. And there were some things I've done that were not right, and I knew that. But I always paid a price in my conscience for that. Well, the way that I look at my sons and daughters now, some people say, well, that's my baby. He's 30 years old. Well, I don't have any adult babies. I have sons and daughters. They're maturing and they're growing up. And I have to allow them to be that.
Mm-hmm.
What that means then is we have to have mature and adult conversation. And when we have mature and adult conversation, some of them are raising their children too. They now see stuff that they would not have seen. But the key is you have to have a safe space. You have to be safe with your family enough that they will come to you or you can come to them and you can agree to disagree. But I want to be able to share what I believe, why I believe, and how I saw it without anybody feeling like they had to agree with it. It's not about agreement and disagreement. It is about what really happened. Let me share with you what path I was on and how things like this happen. So one of my sons was sharing with me that when he was in elementary school, the dogs used to run after them every day, and they were literally terrorized by those dogs. And he resented that. Number one, and this is not too long ago. I never knew that. But I couldn't walk them home from elementary school.
Right.
I was working. My vow to God was to always work to take care of my family. I couldn't not work. I was over my head in debt at that point, but I still had to work. And their mom had to work. I don't know what the options would have been, but if I had known it back at that time, then at least I could have pursued a different option, but I wasn't aware of it at all. I just didn't know. So sharing with my sons and daughters now, if I could have been better, I would have. I just gave you the best I have. But whatever you're feeling and thinking now, let me hear you, and I'll try to listen to everything you say, and I'm not going to defend. And I'm not going to tell you crazy and you this, and I'm not going to, well, I'm your daddy. And I'm not doing any of that. What I'm saying as a human being with dignity and respect, let me hear what you're really thinking, how you experienced it, and help me to walk in your world for a little bit.
That's good.
That's good.
Nakia Wallace says, yes, that was me. She's commenting on something we talked about. We'll get the context in a minute. Yes, that was me. She said, dealing with all of this now, newly married, and praying with knee pads on because I stay in prayer. 6 kids between the both of us. And it's been real interesting. Nakia, if you're still watching and you have a specific question you'd like to get our relationship guru to answer, go ahead on and type that in the chat for me. And because we're about to come to a close, and I just want to see if it's something that he can answer for you. If you have something on your heart that you want to get out right now while we're still on. We got someone said rules without a relationship brings rebellion. That is so true. Kendra said, I wouldn't be here if she listened. It would be a hashtag sad world.
That's her daughter.
That's her daughter, huh? Mel said blended families is a complex situation in which everyone learns from it. Thank y'all for y'all comments. And then we got just a whole bunch of people watching, a whole bunch of hearts. I think you helping some folk. I really do. So at the end of each of our shows, we always, is there anything else you want to say, Fred?
No, I've heard a bit much,
Friends, let's go eat. Do something.
You would good, so let's go eat, man. I got my groceries.
You want to prepare for this?
It's a compelling, it really is story, and great in the sense of the ups and downs
Yeah.
of it, and just the fact that, like, you being transparent and said, listen, I didn't know what I was doing. I was at work. That happens a lot.
Yeah.
And the mom is left at home to,
Fix everything.
deal with the kids, fix everything, and
then fix him when he comes home. Not that he expects it, but I mean, I'm sure you didn't expect her to fix what you went through in your life, your young life, your adult life, in terms of your family and your relationships, things of that nature, what have you. So that's good stuff.
Well, I'm not sure you're right about that. I expected a lot. So, I mean, I was younger then, so, and I think you're running out of time. So we're totally out of time. Do I need to?
No. You're good. You're good.
Well, it's very important for step parenting is to remember that as much as possible, just like CC said, do your best to get involved. Don't detach because you're not getting along with the children. That's lose, 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 lose.
Mm-hmm.
As much as possible, as much as it depends on you, stay involved at some level. The next thing is start with developing friendship with the children. You have to develop the friendship. Most of the children probably didn't ask their parents to get a divorce, and y'all probably didn't get their permission to get married. So they didn't have nothing to say about any of this. So as a result of that, now you have what you have, and they're rebellious. And you have to let relationships develop at the stepchild's pace where possible. In other words, the stepchild can't jump out of the window and say, you ain't going to tell me what to do. But on the other hand, as far as how you're going to work together, you have to have a pace that you're working towards something. The worst thing you can do is to walk into a relationship and then say to the person that I'm your father, call me daddy, call me mama. No, you can't do that. You have to earn all of that. Right. And they may never do that, but it'll be okay. And the other thing is plan experiences together. Let's do some things that you can go to do together, and you're going to have to plan those. So if you got 6 children in a blended family, I don't know what the age ranges are, but almost all children like to have some fun at some level. So rather than always trying to keep order, go somewhere and have some fun. Do some things that they can look forward to so that they can have a part of that. And remember that almost all blended families, somebody's going to say, you're not my mama, you're not my daddy. They're just going to say that because that's the weapon that get what they want. So if you don't give me what you want, they're going to say that. And you're right. And you can say, in this household, blah, 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 all you're going to do is lose that. I promise you're going to lose it. You have to understand that the child or the children, they didn't ask for this. You made this choice. So now that you made the choice, step back and look at what you can do together, how you can plan things together. And above all, both spouses have to go to a corner somewhere and negotiate. Because if they hear you yelling in the bedroom or they see you acting a certain way, they know they've already won.
Correct.
67% of second families end in divorce in the first 3 years. It's because they have these other people that they didn't learn how to resolve things in the first marriage. Now you bring all of this other people in. Somewhere along the line, you have to start to begin to turn in a different direction. And you were a child at one time. What did you want? What were the things you did not like? What does a child think? How do they think? What's their experience? And put yourself in that child's position as best you can. Remember that. But the key is the current guardians have to come together and negotiate and find a way to consistently raise their children.
And I'd like to make a comment.
Go ahead, sis.
So
I'm going to ask you something anyway.
when Mike had mentioned about, or you said about you're not my mom, and I actually had that statement made to me. And let me just mention what I said. I said that I wish that your mom was still here, that your dad and your mom were still together. I said, but the only thing that I want you to do is just respect me. And my goal is to help you be the best person that you can be so that you can take care of yourself. She looked at me, I looked at her, and she never said that to me again.
Wow.
She never said it. And I believe when the lady who shared with me before Mike and I got married said, she said, love and just be, it's almost like being neutral, where you don't take sides, is basically what she was saying. That has stayed with me. It has helped me in raising my girls. It just really, really helped me. And so I'm just so appreciative of her saying that to me. Because just for an example, when it was, when we moved, okay, the oldest person gets the room, whatever room that they want. And then when she left, there's two left. Okay, the next person, the oldest, get to pick whatever room they want. Being fair, just be fair about it. Be neutral, and it really does help. The oldest one got the most money when we had chores to do. And let it be known, this is the amount you get, this is the amount you get, So you save your money, then you can go get whatever you want. So try to do those kind of things to help the whole situation, even though I didn't always do everything right, but I try to stay connected, and we do things like you had mentioned. You've got to find things to do with each other. So we went to the bowl alley, to go skating and the park and, all those kind of things. So it was very helpful, I think.
But you got to give them limits. If you have children that you don't set limits together, you're going to have a problem. And that's where you have to negotiate. You have to talk to each other. You have to ask, what do we want? Do we want to have peace in our household? Because if we hunker down on our position, you're not going to have peace. What's the win-win situation where possible? Now you're dealing with, I'm the man, I'm the head of the house, I'm this and that. Once you get that stuff going on, you can't find a place where you're going to set limits. But at some point, you want peace. Jesus is the Prince of Peace. So you want peace in your house. And the way that you do that is you got to give some ground. So what are the limits that you can agree with and you can negotiate later on to change those limits? And you have to, if I don't say anything else to you about blended families, say what you mean what you say. Stop this yelling about, if you do that again, I'm going to take your phone away. Well, are you going to actually take the phone away? Because if you're not, you're going to do it again and again and again. And you're going to continue threatening. I'm going to take you. If you aren't going to do it, don't say it. It's easy out of your anger to do that. But if you have a game plan for how you're going to work together, don't get to the point where you're saying things that you just don't mean. You lose all respect, all authority, and you're not going to catch up. And then you get angry and you get bitter and you become bitter because you said things that in fact was just talk. Set limits, mean what you say what you mean. And when you don't follow your limits, have to say to that child, when I was angry with you, I did this or did this, but the limits still change. That was not my best interest to express it that way. It's not in your best interest. Sometimes when they become teenagers, You have to let them negotiate the limits. Involve them. They are your sons and daughters. And why not allow them and listen to them? So there's a negotiation. That does not take away from your authority or responsibility, or even as parents. But train up a child in the way that they should go. And when they're older, they will not depart from it. Means imparting principles, not just rules. Rules, as they say, are made to be broken, but principles, the things that you instill on them. Just like Cece just said, no, your mother's deceased. And if it was left up to me, I would have her alive and that you would be with her. But I can't do anything about that.
Right.
However, since it is us, why don't we go this way? So children can be reasoned with, but you have to know how to do that. And then you have to also teach them to, you got to set limits, man. And I said that, but responsibility. There's nothing worse than being around an adult who will not be accountable and responsible. In the church, it just makes me sick that people are always blaming somebody else because they weren't raised to take accountability and responsibility. Yeah, a lot of stuff happened to you, but you're responsible for it too.
Correct.
You made those decisions, and now you get the consequences. You pick up one end of the stick, you get the other one. So teaching them so that when they become adults, they take responsibility and they realize they have limits.
Thank you for that. Cece, you answered the question I was about to ask. Like, did that ever happen to you with being told you're not my mom? So you did answer that and how you dealt with that, right? And so that's from the adult to child perspective. But coming in as the third wife, right? Can you touch briefly on how you would handle? Did you feel like you would be compared, right? Because it's inevitable to, compare past to what is going on present, right? And so if you could just briefly speak on, help my viewers that are the second or the third wife, that may be feeling insecure and feeling like they won't measure up to what is, do you have anything to say for that? And then I got the young lady has a question, and I'll do those comments after we hear from Sister Cece and Brother Dub, if you jump in too.
Yeah, I felt that at times, just by our conversations. But after a while, you just have to, you got to let go. Otherwise, it makes you bitter, and it's wasted energy. And so you just have to let go. And that's sort of what helped me. It's just letting go.
Well, we also want to be kind of careful what we say, but I need to say this: letting go is not easy. It's psychological, spiritual, emotional. You just can't make that kind of decision. And when you have a strong personality like me, I'm not necessarily comparing you with the people in the past, but I'm expecting more than you have at this time. I use this illustration all the time. You're just bound and determined that person that you want $50 from, they continue to offer you 25, but you're determined, no, I want the 50, and you walk away angry. But 25 was all they had. So sometimes I've asked more from CC than what she had. And it did come from experience, but some of that didn't come from experience. It comes from now. And I shared with her, but we've gotten past some of the things from then. This is me and you. And I will hold her accountable like I want her to hold me accountable. Okay, that was then, but hey, look, that's been 40 years ago. So let's deal with this now. So you have both the comparison, but you also have to go through what it takes to say, I am who I am. I'm enough. And that can't be just an inspirational saying that you move on with your life because this is who you are. It's what you have to offer. Good enough for the Lord. And I'm going to make it good enough for you as much as you'll accept it. But if not, I'm still going to love you, but I got to go to work now.
All right. We're going to take these last couple of minutes. Paris, Cherry says, much needed conversation in the church. And my auntie says, I am a product, this Aunt Gwen. She says, I'm a product of a blended family. Both my mom and my dad were married before, but both spouses deceased. Now I got some stories, some pains, and just listening to both sides of their prior families, my siblings, but God. So we appreciate you, Auntie, for saying that. I didn't know that. Shannon Adams says, nothing but gems and wisdom being dropped. Thank you to both of you for being transparent, a conversation that every family unit can apply some of what has been shared. Good stuff in all caps. And then the young lady, we got Sister Vivian says, it is amazing that you two were able to navigate through the various relationships and produce adult children that I personally admire for one reason or another. That was sweet. Sister Vivian, let me get back to the young lady who has the question for you, which of course I took a screenshot of it this time. I ain't let it get me down this time because I said I might mess up again. So her question is about the kids, the one with the 6 kids. She said, I want us to, this is the kids' request. I want us to be able to communicate without feeling like there is going to be hurt feelings. We have to understand what is going on with each other. I want to be his partner. And I don't want him to, I can't see the rest. It's a screenshot. Oh. It's a screenshot. See, you was getting ready. You see? She said, can you speak on that, Brother Doug, right quick before we end?
Well, here is what is very, very rare but critical. Both spouses have feelings. Honest, truthful feelings and thoughts and beliefs, and we hide behind them. And in fact, in almost all our relationships, people don't know who we are because we're forever hiding, because we don't want other people, especially Christians, to know that we're disappointed, we're angry, I don't trust you, I don't believe you. We don't want that, but that's what's pushing us. So if the two are going to learn between the two of them, they feel a certain way, their feelings are valid. But now let me share with you how I've gotten to that particular place. And this is where you begin the healing. This is how you learn how to trust somebody that you don't trust them. And here is why you don't trust them. But honestly, having the heart to heart, I don't know if y'all like to walk. I don't know if you like to drive. I don't know if you like to get some music on, but create an atmosphere where you're saying, I need your help. I really do. And when this happens, this is what happens with me. And I need to hear what you're thinking. And the other person may not understand anything you're saying. But if they hear you and they care about you, they will begin the process of beginning to learn who you really are. And that is the road to a healthy recovery, healthy relationship, because you acknowledge who you are, what you feel at this particular point, and that what you feel may not be valid, but it is how you feel. And you both, when you share with each other how you feel, you're much more prone to forgive and to move toward meaningful dialogue. My theme about CC is CC. And I really mean that to the core of my being. What I mean is I'm not put on this earth to change her. I'll have some influence on her, but she's supposed to be who she is. But I haven't always believed that. And no, I haven't always been that way. But when you start to listen, and when you start to listen to what people say, what they don't say, and you validate them where they are, you have a tremendous gift of beginning to know each other.
That is beautiful. Well, we have our Neil appeal. I took notes when you were talking. At the end of each show, we do the Neil's appeal, which is our request that we're making to all the couples to work on based off of what we discussed on the show. And so until we meet again, right, we have them do like some of the main points that were discussed. And so I jotted down for the blended family. One thing that Cece kept saying, my girls, and getting routines and things like that. The number one thing you said was stay involved, right? Making sure that they're staying involved with the family, not pulling, away from or talking bad. That was a key point that I wrote down for the Neil's appeal for our listeners this week. And also you said develop friendships with the children, right? Is that what you said?
Absolutely.
Develop friendships with the children. And then you said plan experiences together. Yep. And that is how you can keep the involvement, staying involved. And this has just been great. We thank y'all, Fred.
Yeah, thank you very much. And basically, to sum it all up, it sounds like you guys and I know Dub, he talks about it all the time. You like making memories, and having something to dwell on, I'm saying, especially from a positive standpoint. So he takes pride in the scenery, the trees, the grass, the sky. You're a different kind of guy, so appreciates the things that God has formulated that man can't do, or duplicate. So it's beautiful.
Yeah, I'm not reading no more comments. Your daughter said, "Who's the favorite though?" We're done with the comments. Someone said, "This was so good. Thank you." This is Sister Ira Booker says, "I always call the two older boys as my sons," which Cece has been saying all day. My girls, my girls, my girls. Mm-hmm. So that's just adorable. And y'all, we got to do a part 2 or something. We do. This has been great. We're talking about putting together a retreat. We're going to do a marriage retreat, and I'm going to get all the couples that we interviewed, make sure we're there, and, do some classes and some workshops. And we're going to invite the single people. They're invited. The widows, they're invited. The widowers, they're invited. The people that have been divorced, like we're talking like doing this big next year. So we're going to be calling on y'all to help us out in that endeavor. And we just appreciate you again so much for opening up your home, allowing us to walk in and sit at your feet and listen to your stories. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. We y'all don't know, this is our new pastor and his wife, Fred and I. We're now in Raleigh. Y'all know that. And this is our preacher and his wife, Sister Cece, and we love it there at that congregation. He knows what he's talking about with relationships. He's been through them, right? So he has to know something to be able to share with everyone. And so we appreciate you being transparent. We appreciate your vulnerability. Most men don't do that, and that's where the no help comes in, because you don't even say what's really happening or what you're really feeling. And so we appreciate y'all both. Thank you so much. Fred, you got anything else?
No, we're good. It's been wonderful.
It has. This one has been the longest, but I think it was well needed. Mm-hmm. Everybody keeps talking about how much this was needed. Sister Ira Booker said, yes, part 2.
Look, tell Ira we love her. We miss her.
Hey, Ira.
They said they love. Oh, she watching. I'm going to read it back. She watching. Shannon Adams said, I have an idea, Kelly Franklin Neal, for a second part to this. Call me. All right, I will. This is great. I love y'all. We're going to let y'all go. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Blessings to y'all.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Buenas noches.
Okay.
No, let's go eat. Love y'all. Good night.
Love you too.
Night.